The film starts with a girl named Sawyer who was a senior student in a college. She received a call while running, and this call was for an interview she had been waiting for a long time. After getting excited, she realizes she has to go to Washington for an interview. It was far from her house, and their festival was also coming. Sawyer gets ready for the interview and then moves to Washington without telling anyone in her car. While on the road, she witnesses traffic due to the festival and decides to move through another road. Moving forward on the way, she finds the path is closed, and then she decides to move forward on the paper map. She stops her car while still in motion when she notices the map getting out. Another car stopped in front of her with two boys while she was studying the map. They were brothers, and at first, they talked to her calmly, but soon their behavior changed. They started misbehaving with Sawyer and she kicks one of them, but he holds her back. Meanwhile, she injures the boy with a knife that she always keeps with her. To escape from them, she runs as fast as possible. The brothers stand up and become furious at her. Now they want to catch Sawyer at any cost. She was running speedily to save her life and had moved far from them while running. She escaped from them, but now she is lost in the forest. Her leg was injured and she was dehydrated due to fast running. After reaching a point near a stream, she drinks loads of water. Time has passed so fast that she cannot believe it and she has to spend the night there. On the other hand, a woman calls the police to report a car that has been abandoned on the road for more than a day. The police officer arrives with his car and doesn't find anything when he checks around, but there were some marks of dragging a human being. The police officer visits the houses around and reaches the siblings' house for investigations. The elder brother was at home and the police officer asked, "Do you know whose car is this?" He refuses that he doesn't know. Meanwhile, his younger brother arrives, who has a blood mark on his shirt. The police officer suspects them immediately after seeing them, but because of having no evidence against them, he leaves silently. Sawyer is shown at the shore of the stream in the forest. Due to the pain in her leg, she couldn't control herself and wandered around while being hungry at the same time. Even with plenty of blood loss, she moves forward somehow with her injured leg. Meanwhile, she hears some voices from the mountain, and after reaching there, she witnesses a car that is falling. In reality, her car was being thrown by those brothers, who just wanted to escape from the investigation. Then Sawyer comes to the car and takes out her phone from the car, but finds her phone broken. It was still working, but the battery was dying slowly. Even she couldn't find the network in the forest. Heavy blood loss and an empty stomach resulted in her being faint. But in the next scene, she awakes and finds herself in a house. There was a boy in front of her name, Lowell. He had bandaged her injured leg, but Sawyer doesn't believe him, because he was unknown to her and they were alone in the forest. She starts shouting, but Lowell forbids her from doing this. Sawyer stands up and tries to leave from there, but she again falls because of dehydration. After getting her senses back, she finds Lowell has tied her hands and feet. Later, he gives her bread to eat and then asks how she came here. In response, Lowell reveals to her everything that happened to her. The brothers are depicted on a different side looking for Sawyer in the forest. Meanwhile, they glimpse a piece of the cloth, and due to it, they confirm that she is still in the forest. Back in the van, she was talking with him, and they heard a car's voice outside the van. She starts calling for help loudly after hearing the car's voice. Lowell shuts her mouth and says, "Keep quiet, let me go and check." When he checks, he sees the brothers there. They are his cousins and they ask him about Sawyer. But Lowell clearly refuses them and says, "I don't know any girls." They suspect him, considering his behavior towards them, and enter their house. Sawyer went outside the house and hid in a damaged truck. Lowell comes to her when they leave and says, "You have made a mistake. You shouldn't come out of the house." He is a nice human and wants to save her from his cousins because he knows them well. After a while, the police officer is shown whose senior officer asks him what the report of the case is. "Did you discover something about the car? Whose car was it?" "There was a girl in the car who had been missing for many days. We have to find the girl at any cost and solve this case." Later, the police officer again goes to the brothers and says, "You have made a mistake by letting that girl leave because this is a serious case. It has spread all over the country." The police officer was also corrupt and was with those brothers. Sawyer requests him, "Please obey me and let me go from here. I have to go to Washington as I have an urgent task. I have an interview and Washington isn't far from here." He says he doesn't have a car, but his cousins will go out this weekend. And he will be able to have their car. "At that time I can drop you anywhere, so please have patience and sit here. It is just a matter of 2 or 3 days." Now they become friends and she also believes him. He doesn't want to harm her, but instead, he will help her. Now they start living in that house calmly. Here we discover actually, Lowell is a chemistry student. He tells Sawyer about it when he was making a chemical. Later, the brothers are shown and they come to Lowell's house again. This time, they brought some boxes with them and as they enter the house he willingly spreads the smoke in the house. Getting a chance from it, Sawyer leaves from there and reaches the shore of the stream. Likewise, the brothers couldn't discover her living with their cousin Lowell. It is shown in the police station that a police officer discovers about the corrupt officer that helps those brothers. That's why he takes the police officer at the gunpoint. Before he could arrest him, he shoots him brutally. Due to it, the police officer dies and with the help of those brothers, he settles that dead body. Then the senior sheriff arrives and the bad police officer blames the dead officer for the girl who was missing. He says, now I'm taking the case from you and giving it to the state police because it is a serious matter, and the corrupt officer becomes worried. Then he reaches out to those brothers and reveals that he thinks they will get caught. This police officer was also included in drugs with those brothers, and Lowell used to make those drugs. The boxes they brought to his house were the drug boxes. Meanwhile, a corrupt police officer passes by their house while they are sitting outside. He suspects she is in his house. That's why he stops his car and wants to search his house. Lowell refuses to allow him to search without a valid warrant. The police officer explains this to those brothers, and after doubting their cousin, the brother moves to his house. They catch her sight as they move inside and point their guns at both of them. But Lowell says, you don't know why I keep her with me? I have made her my prisoner, she does all my tasks. Later, he asks Sawyer to go and make coffee. She places a coffee mug into the oven and then returns to Lowell. A voice comes from the oven after some time, which means the coffee is ready. The younger brother goes near the oven, but then there was a huge blast happens. He dies there. The blast was so huge that the whole house burnt and they fall outside the house after being injured. This blast happened because of the chemical that Lowell was mixing. He had also told Sawyer about it so she can use it at the right time. Both were outside the house where Lowell was injured. Meanwhile, the elder brother arrives and he was completely burnt. Lowell asks Sawyer to escape from there. When the other brother was about to shoot, he holds him from behind and points the gun at him while snatching it from him. Before he could shoot him, the corrupt officer reaches there and shoots both of them brutally. Sawyer is shown running into the forest and reaches the road while running and then sees a police car. She becomes happy and sits in the car immediately. But it was the corrupt police officer's car. The police officer takes her to the shore of the stream and tries to kill her while drowning her in the stream. Meanwhile, she realizes that she had a screwdriver which was given by Lowell. She drops it mistakenly in the water, but after picking it up, she attacks the police officer. Then she comes out of the stream while attacking him repeatedly and making him injured. She comes to the main road while returning, and meanwhile, many police cars are shown coming behind her. It is said that she was saved and the police officer was jailed for his crimes. The movie ends here, and thanks for watching. Don't miss out on the next movie recap displayed on the screen.